She climbed onto the roof with nothing but a toolbox, expecting to fix an antenna and be back for breakfast. But when the static cleared from her headset, Corporal Elise Ward heard something that made her blood run cold: enemy voices discussing the assassination of a high-ranking officer and the destruction of an entire military convoy. In 60 seconds, a routine repair job had become a race against time that would test everything she believed about duty and protocol. But Elise wasn't just any technician. Growing up as the daughter of a communications officer, she had been fixing radios and intercepting signals since she was 12 years old. What the enemy didn't know was that their secure frequency had a weakness that only someone with Elise's unconventional background could exploit. The convoy they were planning to ambush included Colonel James Mitchell, the base commander who had personally recommended Elise for her position. She had 47 minutes before the convoy departed, no authority to stop a military operation, and a choice that would define both her career and her conscience. From which city around the world are you watching today? If this story amazes you, please subscribe to Rising Life Stories and let us know in the comments where you're listening from. Dawn was breaking over Forward Operating Base Phoenix in eastern Syria when Corporal Elise Ward received what seemed like the most mundane assignment of her military career. The southern communications antenna had been experiencing intermittent signal loss for 3 days, causing minor disruptions to routine radio traffic that the base communications officer wanted resolved before the morning briefings. "Ward, grab your toolkit and get that antenna fixed before 0800, Sergeant Martinez had instructed with the casual tone reserved for routine maintenance tasks. "Should be a simple calibration issue, nothing you can't handle in 20 minutes. Elise had been working as a communications technician at FOB Phoenix for 8 months, maintaining the complex array of radio equipment, satellite links, and electronic systems that kept the base connected to command headquarters and forward-deployed units. Her work was essential but invisible, the kind of technical support that allowed operations to function smoothly while rarely drawing attention from commanding officers. At 23 years old, Elise represented a new generation of military technicians who had grown up with technology in ways that their supervisors sometimes struggled to understand. Her father, Master Sergeant Robert Ward, had spent 22 years as a communications specialist before retiring, and Elise had been troubleshooting radio problems and understanding signal patterns since she was old enough to hold a soldering iron. The morning air was crisp as Elise climbed the maintenance ladder to the base's communications array, her toolkit secured to her utility belt and her headset connected to the base radio system for coordination with the communications center. The antenna array stretched across the compound's highest building, a collection of directional antennas, satellite dishes, and signal boosters that maintained the base's connection to the outside world. "Com Center, this is Ward. I'm beginning work on the southern array. Expect brief signal interruptions while I run diagnostics." "Copy, Ward. You're cleared for maintenance operations. Current traffic is light. Just routine morning reports." Elise began her systematic approach to antenna troubleshooting, using techniques her father had taught her that went beyond standard military procedures. Rather than simply checking connection points and power levels, she understood how to read the subtle patterns in signal strength and frequency response that revealed the true nature of communications problems. The issue with the southern antenna became apparent within minutes of beginning her diagnostic routine. A connection point had corroded due to recent sandstorms, creating intermittent contact that was causing signal degradation during certain atmospheric conditions. The repair itself would require only basic cleaning and retightening of connections, exactly the kind of routine maintenance that justified Sergeant Martinez's confidence in a quick resolution. But as Elise worked to clean the corroded connection, her headset began picking up signals that weren't part of the base's normal radio traffic. Initially, she assumed the interference was coming from the antenna repair process itself, but as she adjusted her headset frequency to compensate for the maintenance work, the signals became clearer and more distinct. What she was hearing wasn't interference, it was enemy radio communications transmitted on a frequency that should have been undetectable by base equipment. The antenna array's temporary reconfiguration during her repair work had created an unintended receiver capable of intercepting transmissions that the enemy believed were secure from American monitoring. "Unit 7, this is Command. Confirm your position for Operation Sunrise." The voice, speaking through Elise's headset, was clear, professional, and definitely not American. Elise froze in position, her tools motionless in her hands as she realized that she was accidentally eavesdropping on enemy communications that could provide critical intelligence. Command, Unit 7 is in position along Route Tampa, concealed approximately 2 kilometers north of Checkpoint Bravo. We have visual confirmation of the convoy departure schedule. Elise's blood turned cold as she processed what she was hearing. Route Tampa was the main supply route used by American convoys traveling between FOB Phoenix and the Regional Command Center. Checkpoint Bravo was a security point that convoys passed through exactly 47 minutes after departing the base. As Elise remained motionless on the antenna array, the enemy communications continued with details that revealed the scope and sophistication of the planned attack. What she was hearing wasn't a random ambush. It was a carefully coordinated operation designed to eliminate specific targets while sending a strategic message to American forces. Command, Unit 7 reports convoy composition includes 1 command vehicle, 2 escort vehicles, and 1 support vehicle. Primary target has been confirmed in the command vehicle. Elise's hands began to shake as she realized that the enemy wasn't just planning to attack a convoy. They were targeting a specific individual traveling in the command vehicle. The level of intelligence required for such precision suggested either a security breach or sophisticated surveillance capabilities that had compromised American operational security. Unit 7, Command confirms primary target is Colonel James Mitchell, FOB Phoenix Base Commander. Secondary objectives include complete destruction of escort vehicles and elimination of all personnel. No survivors. The mention of Colonel Mitchell's name hit Elise like a physical blow. Colonel Mitchell was not only the base commander, but the officer who had personally reviewed her application for transfer to FOB Phoenix and approved her assignment to the communications unit. More importantly, he was scheduled to depart for the Regional Command Center in exactly 47 minutes as part of a routine liaison meeting. Command, Unit 7 requests confirmation of support elements. Unit 7, you will have overwatch support from Unit 3 positioned on the eastern ridge, approximately 800 meters from the ambush site. Unit 3 will provide sniper support and eliminate any personnel who attempt to escape the kill zone. Elise understood that she was listening to the planning of a sophisticated military operation that would result in the deaths of Colonel Mitchell and every soldier in his convoy. The enemy had detailed knowledge of American convoy procedures, timing, and routes that suggested extensive preparation and intelligence gathering. Unit 7, Command advises that the convoy will enter the kill zone at approximately 0847 hours. Initiate attack when the command vehicle reaches the designated coordinates. Ensure complete destruction of all vehicles before disengaging. The precision of the enemy's planning was terrifying in its completeness. They knew not only the convoy's route and timing, but the exact composition of vehicles and the identity of their primary target. This wasn't a random attack. It was an assassination operation disguised as a convoy ambush. Command, Unit 7 confirms readiness for Operation Sunrise. All units are in position and awaiting final authorization. Unit 7, you are authorized to proceed with Operation Sunrise. Eliminate all targets and withdraw to Rally Point Alpha. No deviations from the operational plan. As the enemy communications ended, Elise found herself alone on the antenna array with knowledge that could save Colonel Mitchell's life and prevent a devastating attack on American forces. But she also understood that she had no authority to act on intelligence gathered through accidental interception, and that following proper protocol would require reporting through channels that might not respond quickly enough to prevent the attack. Elise checked her watch and felt her heart sink. The convoy was scheduled to depart in 43 minutes, which meant that Colonel Mitchell and his escort would reach the ambush site in exactly 90 minutes. Even if she reported the intelligence immediately and it was believed and acted upon, the timeline for preventing the attack was impossibly tight. But more troubling was Elise's understanding of military protocol in situations involving intercepted intelligence. Proper procedure would require her to report the information to her immediate supervisor, who would need to verify the intelligence before passing it up the chain of command to officers with authority to alter operational plans. The bureaucratic process that normally ensured careful evaluation of intelligence could easily require more time than they had available. Elise faced a choice between following the rules she'd been trained to obey and taking unauthorized action that might be the only way to save lives. Elise descended the antenna array with her mind racing through possibilities and consequences. She had 39 minutes to find a way to prevent an attack that would kill Colonel Mitchell and destroy his entire convoy, but every option she considered seemed to violate either military protocol or the practical limitations of her position as a communications technician. Her first instinct was to follow proper procedure by reporting the intercepted intelligence to Sergeant Martinez, who would then be responsible for passing the information up the chain of command. But Elise understood that Martinez would need to verify her report and evaluate the credibility of intelligence gathered through accidental interception before taking any action. "Sergeant Martinez," Elise said, approaching her supervisor at the communications center, "I need to report intelligence gathered during antenna maintenance operations." Martinez looked up from his paperwork with the expression of someone accustomed to routine technical reports. "What kind of intelligence, Ward? Are we talking about equipment problems or something else?" "Sir, during repair operations on the southern antenna, I accidentally intercepted enemy communications detailing a planned attack on Colonel Mitchell's convoy. The attack is scheduled for 0847 hours at checkpoint Bravo." The change in Martinez's expression reflected both surprise and skepticism. Accidental intelligence gathering was unusual enough to require careful verification, and the specificity of Elise's report raised questions about the reliability of information gathered through unplanned interception. "Ward, are you certain about what you heard? Accidental intercepts are notoriously unreliable, and we can't afford to disrupt operational plans based on uncertain intelligence." Elise understood Martinez's caution, but she also knew that the verification process he was required to follow could easily consume the remaining time before the convoy's departure. Military protocol demanded careful evaluation of intelligence to prevent false alarms and operational disruptions, but in this case, careful evaluation might mean arriving too late to prevent a massacre. "Sir, I'm certain about what I heard. The enemy knows Colonel Mitchell's name, his travel schedule, and the exact composition of his convoy. This isn't random intelligence. It's detailed operational planning for a coordinated attack." Martinez reached for his radio to begin the process of reporting Elise's intelligence up the chain of command. But Elise could see the doubt in his expression. The timeline for verification, evaluation, and action seemed impossibly tight, and she realized that following protocol might condemn Colonel Mitchell and his soldiers to death. "Sergeant, with respect, we don't have time for full verification procedures. The convoy departs in 36 minutes, and the attack is planned for exactly 90 minutes from now. If we wait for proper authorization, we'll be too late." Martinez paused with his hand on the radio, understanding the impossible position that Elise had placed him in. As a non-commissioned officer, he lacked the authority to alter operational plans based on unverified intelligence, but he also understood that the stakes made delay potentially catastrophic. "Ward, I need you to understand that what you're asking goes against everything we're trained to do. I can't stop a convoy based on intelligence that hasn't been verified through proper channels." Elise felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders as she realized that Martinez's adherence to protocol would likely result in the deaths of good soldiers. But she also understood that asking him to violate regulations would place his career and the operational security of the base at risk. "Sir, I understand your position, but I also understand that Colonel Mitchell saved my career when he approved my transfer to this base. I can't follow protocol and watch him die when I have information that could save his life." The moment Elise spoke those words, she understood that she had made her choice. Rather than waiting for authorization that might never come, she would take unauthorized action to prevent an attack that she was the only person in position to stop. Elise left the communication center with a plan that violated every regulation she had been taught to follow, but represented the only realistic chance of saving Colonel Mitchell's convoy from the planned ambush. She had 32 minutes before the convoy's departure and needed to find a way to prevent the mission without official authorization. Her solution came from understanding the base's communication systems in ways that her technical training had prepared her for, but her superiors had never anticipated. Rather than attempting to convince officers to alter operational plans, Elise decided to create technical problems that would force delays in the convoy's departure. Moving quickly through the base's technical areas, Elise began systematically disrupting the communication systems that the convoy relied on for coordination with base operations. Her sabotage was subtle and sophisticated, creating intermittent failures that would appear to be equipment problems rather than deliberate interference. "Comm Center, this is Motor Pool. We're experiencing radio problems with the convoy vehicles, intermittent signal loss on all frequencies." Elise's manipulation of the communication systems created exactly the kind of technical problems that would force convoy commanders to delay departure until communications could be restored. Military protocol required reliable communication links before departing on operations, and Elise's sabotage made such reliability impossible. But her technical sabotage could only create delays, not permanent cancellation of the convoy mission. Eventually, the communication problems would be resolved, and Colonel Mitchell's convoy would depart for its appointment with the enemy ambush. Elise needed a more permanent solution that would either cancel the mission or change the route to avoid the planned attack site. Her opportunity came when she realized that her position as a communications technician gave her access to intelligence reports and operational updates that she could manipulate to create legitimate reasons for altering the convoy's plans. If she could create believable intelligence suggesting threats along Route Tampa, operational planners might choose an alternative route that would avoid the enemy ambush. Working quickly at her communications terminal, Elise began crafting a false intelligence report suggesting enemy activity along Route Tampa that would justify routing Colonel Mitchell's convoy through alternative routes. Her report was technically sophisticated and operationally credible, designed to trigger legitimate security concerns that would result in route changes. Base operations, this is communications. We're receiving reports of possible enemy surveillance activity along Route Tampa. Grid coordinates 341-782. Recommend convoy route evaluation for security assessment. Elise's false intelligence report achieved exactly the result she had hoped for, creating legitimate security concerns that would force operational planners to reconsider the convoy's route and timing. But she also understood that her unauthorized actions represented career-ending violations of military regulations that could result in court-martial proceedings. The combination of communication problems and intelligence reports created enough concern among base operations officers to delay Colonel Mitchell's convoy departure while security assessments were conducted. Elise's unauthorized actions had successfully prevented the convoy from arriving at Checkpoint Bravo at the time when the enemy ambush was planned. 2 hours later, reconnaissance patrols discovered the enemy positions that Elise had learned about through her accidental interception of their communications. Units 7 and 3 were found exactly where the enemy communications had indicated, equipped for the sophisticated ambush that would have destroyed Colonel Mitchell's convoy. "Ward, report to Colonel Mitchell's office immediately," came the order that Elise had been both expecting and dreading. Her unauthorized actions had saved lives, but they had also violated regulations in ways that could not be ignored or overlooked. Colonel Mitchell's office was filled with the base's senior officers when Elise arrived, creating an atmosphere that suggested serious consequences for her unauthorized intelligence gathering and operational interference. "Corporal Ward," Colonel Mitchell began, "your actions today prevented what intelligence officers have confirmed would have been a devastating attack on my convoy. You saved the lives of 12 soldiers, including my own." Elise stood at attention, waiting for the consequences that she knew must follow her violation of military regulations and protocols. "However," Colonel Mitchell continued, "your methods violated every protocol we have for handling intelligence and operational security. You took unauthorized actions that could have compromised base security and operational integrity." The silence in the office stretched as Elise waited to learn whether her life-saving actions would be viewed as heroic initiative or inexcusable insubordination. "Corporal Ward, effective immediately, you are being transferred to the intelligence support activity with a promotion to sergeant. Your technical skills and operational initiative are exactly what we need for unconventional intelligence operations. 6 months later, Sergeant Elise Ward was working with classified intelligence units, using her technical expertise and willingness to break conventional rules to gather intelligence that saved lives and prevented attacks. Her accidental interception of enemy communications had revealed capabilities that conventional intelligence gathering had missed. Colonel Mitchell's convoy route was permanently altered based on the intelligence Elise had provided, and the enemy units that had planned the ambush were eliminated by precision strikes that prevented future attacks on American forces. Elise's story became a classified case study in the value of unconventional thinking and the importance of individual initiative in preventing enemy operations. Her willingness to break rules when lives were at stake demonstrated that the greatest heroes sometimes emerge from the most unexpected circumstances. At Rising Life Stories, we believe that true heroism often requires the courage to do what's right rather than what's easy, and that the most important decisions are sometimes made by people in positions where they're not supposed to make decisions at all. Where are you watching from today? If Elise's story of choosing conscience over protocol inspired you, please subscribe and share, because there are heroes among us who make split-second decisions that save lives while no one is watching.